So the healing brush tool is here under these options: spot healing brush, patch, blah blah blah. So I use the second one, the healing brush tool, and I zoom in, but not too far because it's almost to the point where you can't really see anything. So what you want to do is find an area that's clear. Now, not always is there an area that's clear. So I will literally sometimes go out here and find, or even in her shirt, and find, use my option key and then click in an open area. And then on the spot that I want to fix, click and drag around to cover that area up, and it clears it away. Now, if you do it too much, or if your brush is too big, it'll make it too blurry. It just looks like a blurry spot. So I'm gonna undo that, and I'm gonna make my brush a little bit smaller. And I really like to find, especially when I'm doing skin, I want to find an area that has a little bit of texture to it so it doesn't just look like a blur. So I'm going to pick this area. So I'm going to hold down my option key and just click to sample that area, and then click and drag over that spot, and it evens it out. So because it's sampling, so when you click, you can see the X over here, or the plus, and that's where you're painting, and it's using the pixels from here to paint here. So I paint over it, and it appears to change the color until you let go, and then you're able to clear the skin up in spots. Now, if you're in an area that's close to a darker area, like here, if I were to click there, it makes a darker spot. So when I'm close to a darker area, I want to make my brush smaller by using the brackets. The left bracket makes it smaller, the right bracket makes my brush bigger. You don't want to go too big. You really want to just be big enough to cover the spot, and then you can go outside of the spot just a little bit. So I'm just smoothing out spots. And if I have an area like this that has a bunch of little areas around, I will kind of do a dot to dot situation. And I keep going over it until I don't want to completely remove texture because our skin has texture. I don't want to make it completely just like smooth like a baby's butt, because this person would clearly, it would be obvious. So I just go over areas that are darker, and if I need to, like a spot like this, I'll make my brush smaller, and you can use this to get rid of stray hairs. So I make my brush just big enough to cover up the hair, and I do little bits at a time. I don't try to do the whole thing at once, because remember, it's sampling from another area. So if I need to resample, maybe click here, using the option key, click, and then let go, and then just paint, click and drag to paint the areas that you want to get rid of. And it's a little by little situation. This is not for the faint of heart, and as it gets closer to the hairline, I just kind of have it fade like wispy hairs, so it doesn't look so jagged. This isn't a super clear picture. Let me find a clearer one. Yeah, this one's a super clear picture. So I usually get about this close. Find an area that has texture but not blemishes, Option key, click, let go, and then just, it's basically painting over areas. So when you're in areas that aren't the same color, it's going to look like you're painting it, but when you let go of the mouse, it goes away and it kind of blends in automatically. The spot healing brush tool, you're not sampling from anywhere. It kind of automatically guesstimates where, based on what's surrounding it, and figures out what it should do. Most of the time this works, but sometimes it doesn't, and it gives me mixed results. So with the healing brush, I'm sampling from an area, and I know kind of more what to expect with that. So like I said, sometimes I'll go out here and sample, option click, and even though it looks blue, it's going to take on the color that it's surrounded by. And so with that, it doesn't have as much texture, so I'll just do some small areas. And then I will sample maybe an area that I fixed, like right here, option click, and then fine tune. I don't want to make it perfect, I just want to make it more clear. So her skin still has texture there, just it doesn't look like from this to this, left to right. So if I go to my history, what it looked like before, and now, before, and now. So if you have an area a big area that you want to fix, using the patch tool, you can highlight, or basically it's like your lasso tool. So you select around an area that you want to fix, but you have to have an area big enough, that same size or bigger, that's clear, that you can sample from. So basically you drag that up to a clear area and let it go. And see, that's terrible. That's a bad result. So maybe I'll try the other cheek. Now, if I do that, it's gonna have that right there. So that's terrible. So this isn't the way to go for this particular area. So I'm gonna go back to the healing brush tool, over here and get the sample, and I'll go dot to dot, kind of. So it depends on the level of how detailed you want to go. I know these pictures are probably going to be printed and blown up because these are the nursing pictures that I took. So if I want it to look good from this angle, or this distance, or this size, I can leave it like it is. But I usually try to zoom in, and if there's any major blemishes, I'll sample an area that's clear. Sometimes it's the neck that I have to go to. There's a clear area here, so I will option click here and go through and just get the major blemishes, not every pore, not every single tiny detailed bit. And that's pretty much the healing brush tool.